for some of you, this will be review, and then for some of you, this will be new. So basically, the points of this basic training is, I'm going to try to keep regular breaks in there. I think lunch is an important break. Just kind of clears everybody's mind, because some of this stuff can get quite a lot to take in, especially when we get into the machine, start using the machine. I'm hoping to have some builds, real builds going. We already covered the safe usage of the machine. We're going to cover the basics of the STL data, data preparation. What we don't cover is more than just the basics, like advanced, the advanced knowledge for building, and that there's extra classes for that. That EOS, it's like there's just enough time to do the basics. So for today's goal, we already did the safety. I'm going to just briefly talk about the basics on this laser sanding process, the different machine components, EOS's process sequence, the data preparation, the build, preparing the build, and starting the build process. Safety, we already did the safety. Layering process, everybody kind of basically knows what 3D printing is. It's a layer at a time. So basically, you have on the right is the dispenser. That's where the fresh powder is going to be dispensed by the recorder arm. In the middle is your build plate, and then on your left is the collector. That's where the excess powder will be collected. So basically, it takes the fresh powder over your build area. The laser does the exposure, and it does that over and over until you achieve the height of your part. There's 4 areas of the machine. You have the mechanics, you have your optics, you have your pneumatics, and then you have your electronics. This is actually basically showing you a 290, which is just like your 280. There's a couple of differences. But you have your recorder, it goes from right to left. You have your collector, which is on the left, which goes up and down, which collects your excess powder. Your build platform is in the middle, like I said, goes up and down. It goes down with each build, with each consecutive layer. And your dispenser goes up to dispense the fresh powder. Your optical system above the machine. On the 280, it looks just like this. The only difference is you don't have a camera in it. But you got your fiber optic coming in, you got your collimator, you got your beam expander, and then you have your scanner that controls the laser. And there it is in brief. And the main thing to take out of this is the focus and defocus. People don't realize that when that laser does actually go in, it's melting more than just that single layer, it's actually doing 3 layers. We've already talked about the recirculating filter system. You should have a wet separator, which I saw. I'll show you the basics on how to maintenance that. You have your cooling system, which I already showed you how to clean the filter. Your machine does not have the comfort powder module door, and then shot peening. I just briefly talked about shot peening. You guys don't have that here? No. You should have something, even if it's just a cheap plastic cavity. You should have something to help remove that excess of powder once you remove it from the build plate. You should have something, either a tumbler, shot peen, something. But we'll get into more detail later. ICPM extras, I didn't see you guys have any of this stuff. So you're doing all manual sieving, is that correct? Preparing the data, you have to have an STL to have a finished part. So the processing sequence from EOS is from a CAD. You convert it to an STL, and then from there you run it in Magix. Magix gives you your slices. If you had a 290, instead of having to use PSW, they have EOS Brick 2. Makes it a little bit simpler, a little bit more user-friendly. And then once you have that all done, then you have to set up the machine, build your parts, take the machine out of operation. In your guys' case, you're going to manually sieve, and then you unpack and post-treat your parts. So that is the whole sequence. A little more detailed data preparation. You have your CAD. You edit and do your supports in Magix. And how rehearsed are you guys in Magix?
Fairly comfortable in it. Probably need a little bit of time, just to, like 5 minutes at it, just to get back into the swing of it.
Okay. Because I'll show you a review of the basics on Magix, but it'll be up to you guys to like really get into depth. I mean, there's a lot you can do with the teeth. Just how strong you make the supports, how weak you make the supports. And again, you don't use EOS Brick 2, you use PSW. You will take those building tasks, send it to the machine. You guys just use a USB, is that how you do it? And then from there, depending on what licenses you have, you can monitor your build. There's EOS State, and then you have EOS Access. I think you guys should have EOS Access. That's how you can do simple things. For example, if your clock is not timed right on the computer, you actually do it with EOS Access to adjust your clock. So basically, you have your STL, your slice file, your OpenJZ, and then your task. In Magix, again, this is where you would load your scene, you load your part. Orientation is very important. Depending on how you orientate it is going to dictate how long your build is, what your part's going to look like, how easy your part is to remove, how much post-processing you have left to do. This is where you would also repair your part. I think Vince should have covered that with you. You want to go in there and fix your STL. Did he cover that? Because most STLs are, I say 90% of your STLs are watertight is what they call it. But there's a couple times you'll have STL where it's either missing a triangle or it's not quite joining correctly, where you have some overlap triangles. You want to fix all that before because you could potentially see some errors in your build. But I'll go through that briefly with you. How to save your STL, how to generate support, and then how to create a CLI file so you can create your slice file. And then you would save it as an OpenJZ, send it to your machine. Skip that one. Filling up the machine. You dump the powder in, and again, here's where you want to be careful. You don't want to swirl that powder when you dump it. So you carefully want to put the container in there, and I usually actually will scoop it in there. I just don't dump it because you do get a little powder, a cloud flume if you just kind of quickly dump it in there. And I never dump it all in there, or I will scoop so much in there, a couple scoops, tamp it down, a couple more scoops, tamp it down. It's very important to tamp that powder. You want to make sure there's no voids. As that recorder arm comes across, if there's a void and it decides to collapse, you're going to short fill your build. All that work that you have done, that build, the potential to ruin that build. You want to bring your collector up. I like to bring it to about 4 millimeters from the top. Check the recorder blade. You want to visually check it, and what I kind of do is I'll run the back of my fingernail across that blade. It's extremely sharp, so you don't want to use, the soft skin part of your finger because you will cut it. If it's a high-speed steel blade, you can, if you feel a little nick or something on it, you can potentially fix it if you want with a little stone. If it's a ceramic blade, for example, and there's a big chip in it, you're going to have to replace that blade. I'll also show you the proper way of taking the blade in and out and tightening the bolts. You put your build platform in there, turn your heat on, because depending on what temperature your build plate is going to, you want that build plate to hit that temperature before you tighten it down and make your leveling adjustments. For example, when you run aluminum, it goes to 200C. There's quite a bit of expansion, so you need that time to let it warm up. Adjusting the platform, you're going to have these two buttons. The one's for the Y and the other one's for the X. This is your fine-tune adjustment. I will show you, there's a couple ways of doing it. There's the EOS way of doing it. There's, once you get real comfortable, there's some feeler gauge method, just all feeler gauge method. There's a combination of using the dial indicator and a feeler gauge. I think John and Andrew, you guys have done this before? Okay. So I'm gonna...
You did it during the training or just by myself?
During training?
I saw people do it.
But you didn't do it?
No.
Okay.
I'm reading that.
So I'm gonna... So basically I'm gonna see what John remembers, and then I'll show the other methods, and it will be good if John's doing everything right, because then that means if once training's done, any issues down the road, at least I know John can do it real good. But my goal is when I leave, the 4 main guys can do it on their own. After the build platform is adjusted, then we go and set up that first layer. And I think that's probably the most important part of all the setup. Not so much the layer. You want the layer to be, that first part, you want that platform to be level. But if you're off a little bit, it doesn't really matter, because after the first couple layers, it's self-leveling anyways. So to me, the most important part is that first layer. You don't want that first layer to be too thick. That means you're not going to have a good adhere. So there's a good chance of delamination. So if anything, I always like to err on the side of being too, not enough powder there. And I'll show you what I'm talking about when we're out there at the machine. You want to be able to see the build plate underneath that first layer of powder.
This is all manual, it's not automatic.
It's all manual, yes. Yep. Even on the new machine, it's all manual. And then it's up to you. Just the more you use it, you're going to see how nice it looks, and you're going to get an idea of, yeah, that works, or no, I need to tweak it a little bit better, that's not going to work. But the first layer is very important. And then finally, after you get that first layer done, then we will wipe the laser window, which reminds me, do you guys have alcohol or methanol? Okay. And that's the final step. That's always an important thing to do, is to wipe that lens. Talk a little bit about the building process. So once we load, I'll show you how to load the build task, start the build. Again, if you had EOS state and had the license, you can actually monitor the build as it's going to make sure there's no issues. Or if you were going to qualify or try to qualify a build or part, you would have to have some kind of monitoring system. just quick go through this. I'm assuming, do you guys have any kind of monitoring system? Okay. So I just quick go through this. And then with that too, you can actually print out a report at the very end of it, and it'll show you oxygen levels, temperature. This way here, you can show the customer, hey, this is a good part, but that's down the road. It's just showing you a little bit of what that stuff looks like. And here on the left, these are all the monitoring systems you can buy for that machine. After the build has been done, you're going to be, again, you're going to be suited up. You're going to be having all your, the gloves on, a mask on. You're going to, in your case, you're going to hand sieve. I'll show, how I do it, or how I recommend to do it. I'll watch you guys, how you guys do it. Once the hand sieving is done, you remove the parts from the platform. Including the chain route. It's very important to, I've seen some messy machines, I've seen some clean machines. It's very important to keep everything clean. Bottom line, just take the time to keep everything clean. And then the post-treatment. I think with MS1 you're okay. Depending on what you are doing with those parts, stress relieving is not really needed. Now, if you have a customer that's trying to qualify a part, or he's very wants the best mechanical properties, you're going to have to do some kind of stress relieving. And in that case, then you're going to have to get yourself heat treat up.
So, is there any way to use leftover, reuse that powder, any leftover?
Yeah, so all the powder,
powder.
the powder is 100% reusable, so you can recycle it. And that's why you're going through that sieve. I think the sieve has, the hand sieve I think is 63 or 75 microns. So it's going to take out any of the large particles. Any of the large particles that you see sitting up above the screen, you can just throw away. So that's a good point though. You want to remove as much powder, get all that powder out as much as you can before the stress relief. Once it goes into the heat treat oven, that powder is no good. Powder will be, you can't use that powder again. Depending on how you want to remove your supports, you can either do it manually. I have a couple builds that I'm hoping we can get to where it's showing you if you have the supports done just right, you just take a pair of side cutters or something and you can get in there and you can cut and it just kind of peels that part up like a banana. You can use a belt saw, you can use a wire EDM is the preferred choice. It's a little expensive, but it's also the quickest, most accurate, easiest way of doing it is with the wire EDM. Shot peen, I think shot peen is, I consider it a requirement. Even a cheap, $2,000 cabinet will at least get that loose powder off of the part for you. Plus you have the, without shot peening, you have the, you guys have probably felt the, I don't know what you want to call that, it's residual powder that's like just sit there and clump on the outside. Shot peening takes that off, and you can go from like a 250 RA down to a 200, 180 RA just with shot peening. And then you can take it and you can either do some grinding, polishing. There's all kinds of things you can do for post-processing, and then there's cases where you have to take it to a machine tool, a mill or lathe to clean up that support. It all depends on what's important and how you set up that part. So here's what I'm hoping to do today. We're gonna get something into the machine at the bare minimum, we have to build a calibration job in that, because you guys, it's recommended every time you switch powders, you run a calibration job. You should have that in the machine. If you don't, I have a file here that I'll leave, make sure because like I said, if you switch to any powder, you should really run the calibration job again. I know you've done it for 360 now, but now that we're going to switch, and let's say you decide to switch back down the road, you need to run a calibration job. It's recommended every time you switch. I usually get a little more detail in this when we are actually at the machine. And so that's the basic summary of day one. The process of the laser sintering, the components of the machine and safety, the data preparation, machine setup, starting with the build process, and then we're going to skip the EOS state since you guys don't have any monitoring. So after lunch, we'll be probably spending the rest of the day at the machine. I'm hoping when I go look at it that it pumped down. But at that point, we'll put a build plate in there. I guess I got to we have to get the powder out first, and I'll show how to wipe down everything really nice. Where the nooks and crannies, where to look for. We'll do all that. Put the MS1 in there, and then we'll put the build plate in there. We'll set up the calibration build in Magix, which I need to get with somebody to renew your license, but we can use my Magix. And then hopefully by the end of today we'll start that calibration job, so when we come in tomorrow we can take that build job out. So that's it. We can break for lunch. Let's take an hour. We'll be back at 1.
Just missed the morning session, so I'll come back at 1.
When the filter turns on, here is where the filter clogging sensor is going to show up. I forget exactly at what level it will. I think it's like, it might be around 2.5 is when this light will turn on. When this light turns on, you can either A, finish your build, because if it turns on in the middle of your build, finish the build. Or if you notice that turns on and you're ready to print something, if it's a short build, 8 hours, 15 hours at the most, go ahead and finish it. But anything longer than that, I'll change the filter before starting that build.
So do we pass the machine not print at that time when you change the filter?
So what was that?
Do we pass it? That means
No. Just let it finish. Let it finish. But let it finish, and then go ahead and take care of the filter after your build is done. But yeah, if it's a short build, go ahead and start it. If it's a long build, just go ahead and change the filters. You can see your warning stickers everywhere, like I was mentioning. We can go ahead and we can open. I'm going to show you the filters, and then maybe later we'll take the filters out another day. But in order to open this cabinet, you need to hit the button. And then here's the seal I was talking about. Make sure you clean this real good, because basically that's where seals are on here. And if you're going to have any issues, that's where you're going to have issues resealing. I've seen people put this on, and then they literally put a strap around there to help get that seal better. Some have issues. Yeah, I can tell from here, this is extremely clean. Very clean in there.
Really short filter.
Yeah. And you do, yeah. This is actually the filter for your Class B. I don't know what that means. I think what that means is you get shorter life. So this light will probably turn on a little sooner. Class B. You should have, the taller one is, I think it's like 200 something millimeters, so you saw it's like that tall.
And the other sensors on top, what are you looking at?
So this is, you can actually control the gas flow in the chamber. So depending on what you're printing, I'll give you a parameter sheet. The parameter sheet's going to tell you, it's going to give you a number they recommend here. 99% of the time it's 2.5. You're not going to change this. But there are some materials where you would change that, and that's just the amount of gas that flows across your build plate as you build it. Now, if you were doing some experimenting, like some of our customers like to experiment, come up with their own materials and stuff, they'll play around with that number to change the mechanical properties of the material. But default, it's on a parameter sheet. You should have that somewhere, but I also give you a copy.
Are we gonna replace the material today or?
Yeah, depending on how far we get today, we're definitely going to be replacing it, yes. Yeah, this is that cover. Yep. It's not going to let me open that one. Once the machine's up and running, we can open this. Actually, not. There it is. So this is an extra can. So basically you can unscrew that, screw this one back in there. And that collects all your heavy powders before it gets to your filter. And you're going to want to empty that every time you change the filter.
The condensate.
Not the condensate, just yeah,
Heavy powder.
heavy powder.
And do you treat it the same way with water? And
Yes, I would. See, I mean, we would take this and we would just pour it into our 55-gallon drum. Like I told you, we had full of water. With you guys, I guess I'd put it on top of your filter and then just pour a little more water on top of that.
and then before you reattach it, you clean it and dry it.
Not this. Yeah, don't put water in here. Just take the powder in there and then pour it on top of your. But I'm not going to unscrew this. This unscrews right here. And you don't want it over tight.
It's three filters.
What was that?
3 levels of filtering, right?
3 level? I think it's 2 level.
So there's so there's essentially three levels of filtering. The 2 in there and then the 1 here, right?
Yes, this is an oil
What is it?
Not a filter, but like a
Yeah,
residual
yeah,
filter.
yeah. But it's just good to have it when you change this,
Just to change
clean that.
Oh, one thing, when you change a filter, both filters, how do you know which one is bad first? In terms of like saving.
So the first time this lights up, you're gonna only change the stop one. This is where you're gonna have to keep track. Second time, you're gonna replace both. And then the third time, you're only gonna do one. You're gonna alternate back and forth.
You iterate.
Yeah. And then I will check your filters. You should have the 12 filter.
Yeah, right.
Because I think what this is gonna do, you're not gonna get as much life. And you're just gonna spend extra money.
Yeah, right. It's supposed to have.
I've only used the less than 30 hours.
Wow. So we're gonna, we're going to, either today or tomorrow, we're gonna do a calibration job. That's the first thing we have to do. And then once we calibrate the new powder, then we'll find something to build, the rest of the week.
Not to change it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna show you where it's at. So it says clean filter. The filter is right here. this is what you're gonna want to clean. We should clean that out before we fire it up. That's, you know, got a lot of.
Clean out with water, just
Yeah,
that?
just rinse that with water.
Plain water, okay.
Yep.
Then everything.
Got it?
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Maybe, let me get it, something quick, is that okay? So you don't have
The
to.
bottom has, no, it's water, it's just water.
Yeah, there's a little,
You see the sediment? Or water minerals on the bottom?
yeah,
Okay, over here.
yeah, there's a little, glycol in there.
So what about if you change like the whole water, you know,
You shouldn't have to change the whole thing.
whole?
Just, you would add to it once in a while.
Oh,
So right here is the sight window.
oh, you can see.
Yeah, so when it gets a little low, see the low beat?
Yeah.
So when it gets down around here, so you can have it as low here, but when it gets about here, I would add some water to it. But I would, yeah, I see a lot of stuff in there. Normally you shouldn't see some of those sediments. You're supposed to use DI water. Do you know what they use in there? Yeah, you're supposed to use deionized.
Yeah.
Deionized water for this.
Yeah, you're supposed to use deionized for water.
Okay.
So I'm wondering what they use because I do see some stuff down in here.
Is that something we can change now, or?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it now, but you can change it out.
Okay. Was there a manual that came with this bag?
There should be. You guys should have a manual. And to change it out, I think you got to remove the outlet hose, and then you can just let it drain back in there, and then refill it here.
Deionized water. So you're
DI?
saying, you're saying that donkey sees because it's probably not yellow.
That's my guess. I've never seen. This one's pretty dirty.
Is there a way to like scrub out the gunk when it's like save it?
Yeah, when you have that hose disconnected when you're draining it, just flush that with some DI water. Get all that stuff out of there.
Okay.
I think that's why it's squealing when you first fire it up too.
DI.
I see some
Sounds like
junk down
it's
there.
in pain.
Yeah,
We used
I think that's okay.
last time. Last push.
Nothing the other side's on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. You need more water?
No, no, you're good.
It's fine.
You see the side
Yeah,
water. You should be able to clear that filter. If you get the manual, we should be able to clear that filter. It's telling you to change the filter. If you notice, these numbers are grayed out.
Yeah.
That's because we turned the machine off, turned it on, we didn't home it. So by homing it, it will know where the platforms are. So you can do that. That's what these little buttons here mean. It's home. So when you hit the home button, what happens is wherever that plate is, it's going to go down, trigger a sensor, limit switch down there, and then come back up to where it started. So if you watch on this collector, I'm going to hit home, which is on that side back over there. If I hit home, it's going to say make sure this path is clear.
But you gotta what?
And you're going to see it going down. It's on that side.
Oh.
And it's going to come all the way down. It's going to hit a limit. It's going to hit the limit switch. It's know where it's at. Then it's going to come back up. And then you'll see a number there. It'll be black, which means it's home. See how it went to black? Now it's on its way back up.
Okay. You won't see that until it's like close to the top. Oh, okay. It's going up.
Yeah. So then it's coming up. And there it is. And I'm going to do that for the middle one, for the home, for the build plate. You'll see it come down and go back up.
So you say the middle one? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
build plate, you can hear it's going all the way. Well, this one's going up. and then it's gonna come back down.
So this is the reverse. It goes up then down
Yeah.
first.
The other ones go down and then come up. I think, let's check here.
So this is like what you have to do like this every time when you print.
Only when you turn power off.
Oh, okay.
So you turn power off, it's gonna forget where it's at.
Oh, okay.
We're just, it's hitting the switch down here, then it knows where it's at and then comes back up.
Oh, okay. So where this thing, like it's in a toolbox, like what is this, like the calibration thing? Do you know what it is? Like file, edit, or something?
This?
Yeah, this window.
Yeah, so it should be on here, but basically, he's asking how did you get this calibration box up?
Yeah, I'll show you guys.
Oh, okay.
So now it's black, it knows where it's at, it's gonna come up where it started.
I'm surprised they don't have these videos, including with the safety videos. They have like a.
Yeah, it's all in the, should all be in the manuals. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that, the button to find this is, so see how it's gone? So it's right here, this adjust. Right here.
Okay.
That comes up.
Oh, okay.
The recorder arm is up here at the top. I know that everything is going to clear. You can either do it two ways. You can go, or you can tell it to move all the way.
So is this all by eyeballing, or is there a number that you know you have to press?
What was that?
You do this by eyeballing in terms of knowing that it's clear, or is there a number that you know that it's clear?
I know that it's clear by eyeball. So if I know that this
Yeah.
is below this frame,
Yeah.
this black, I know it's going to clear.
Okay.
So you can go. So you see it's a lot faster. And like I said, these will go to the left or right, and this will move it until you let go of the button. Same thing with the home button. Sometimes it will lose where the recorder arm is at. It's going to ask you to rehome that. You want to make sure you're all the way in the left side like that, because that's the direction it homes.
Right.
You can hit the home button. It's going to ask you to make sure everything's fine. You hit OK, and if you look, it's doing its little routine. It's home. This machine, you can also put a step in there. You can go like 100 millimeters and hit which direction. And it's going to move that 100 millimeters. I'm going to slow this back down for you guys.
That's all just for setting up and stuff.
Yep. That's, once you do the automatic mode, you're running something, you shouldn't have to touch the recorder arms. And when you're at that stage, you want to start on the right side. There's a powder. Actually, no, hang on, I take that back. You want to start on this side to load the powder, but then you want to leave it on the left side.
Well, it's printed.
Because
So
the
while
powder
it's
is here.
printing,
Yeah.
so you come here, you're all ready to print. You want to make sure that's on the left side. So you do your powder. It looks good. You just leave it there. You're ready to hit start.
I have to turn off cut the compressor.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You can go up and down. You see your numbers. good number to start at is 40 millimeters. I think
4 millimeter.
when I was doing the slide, I said 40 millimeters is actually the number I was trying to think of.
Oh, okay.
That starts it low enough where you're not going to have too much powder over there. Because in theory what happens is this comes up, this goes down, and if you start this too high and you really have a lot of excess of powder going over here, there's a chance you could fill it up too much. But by starting it a little lower, you're not going to fill it up. Because as this goes up, this goes down a certain amount.
What happens when you had too much at the end of the run? That can't go any further down. Does it stop or?
Yeah, it's just going to go down to the bottom, and then it's not going to stop your build. It's just going to keep on running that powder over there. The only time it will stop your build is if that powder builds up so much over here
Yeah.
that it actually stops your recorder arm. Then you'll get an error message that the recorder arm is jammed, is what it says.
I'm assuming there's a ratio between this pin and that.
There is, yeah.
Yeah, there's a ratio.
I'm not sure, but there is a.
So the spreading is only one directional. That means
Yes, it's always
only one.
always to the left or down. You can move it by.
It's not recording. It's not recording right
Yeah,
now.
we are recording.
Ah,
You can
really?
move it by step.
Yeah, we did it later on.
So if you put 50 millimeters in there, hit the down button, it's going to move 50 millimeters.
So that you say what is the offline between the middle one and the side one, the one for powder?
The dispenser side?
No, the other side, the
This one?
deposit side, yeah.
Yeah, that's the collector. That's called the
The
collection.
collection. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the offline when you do that? Is that like a minimum and the maximum offline between the middle and the collector?
You mean how far down?
How far down?
40 millimeters.
40 millimeters.
Yeah, this one will be 40 millimeters.
Okay.
Start.
Is that is constant like when you building this the middle one is increased? I mean, material is increased. You don't have to
No,
bring
you
that one, but
no. You don't have to do anything. It's going to automatically come down.
come down.
Yeah, it's going to calculate so much and come down.
Okay. Okay. Is that based on the weight of the powder or just like
No, it's just based on your layers.
layers?
Yeah. There is a good safety feature. So, like for example, I'll just move this up 1 millimeter. You heard it go up?
Yeah.
So if the recorder arm is not either all the way to the left or to the right, if you watch, it will not let me go up. Well, it shouldn't let you go up. It's got to be farther over.
So when you click up, it only goes up once and it goes back down.
Yeah, so basically what it is,
It grays out the button.
yeah, so basically when I go down,
Yeah.
it goes down, and then to get any backlash out of that screw, there's a screw going down.
Yeah.
It goes down and then comes back up, and that's how it's getting the backlash of the screw off. Does that make sense?
There's like I guess there's a gap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it's trying to.
yeah.
A clearance
Yep.
Yeah.
that
It needs to.
it lost. It
So there it
loses
is.
that distance when it goes back.
Right.
Yeah. So there it is. See how it grayed out the top? I can't move it up.
Okay.
It graded out. See how it graded out?
Yeah.
So if you don't have it all the way to the left or to the right, it's a safety mechanism. It'll grade the up arrow out,
And it will do that at a certain level or regardless of the level.
regardless of the level.
Okay.
So then you just want to bring it back over, and now you can move it up.
So now we
Slowly start scooping. Well, stand kind of back from you.
those filters are class B, right? Like the filter?
The filters that are in there, no, that's, those,
Because it's stainless steel, right?
yeah, they're class A.
Uh-huh.
You're still good.
Oh, okay, so it's still good.
Yeah, those are class A. And because you're going from class A to class A, you don't have to change it.
Okay. Okay.
If they were a B, we would have to change it.
Okay.
So if you guys were switching to titanium or titanium
Aluminum.
or aluminum, then you would have to change it.
Okay.
So you want to make sure, this is a pressure valve. Okay. This is going to release any pressure that's trying to build up in there.
All right.
So before you turn it on, you want to just make sure it works. Okay. Because there is a chance, if that gets stuck, that this could build up too much pressure and boom, boom. Yeah. So that's why you want to check that. So now that we got that, that part of it.
Connect to the main and see if it'll stay up. It built up pressure and it's shut down. I've isolated that end of the building, but it may be
Yeah, so
high.
you want to make sure that moisture gets out of there. Yeah, that moisture, no, I mean,
It's coming here.
okay. Yeah, that moisture,
Yeah, it's
she
going to
does
go.
not like the moisture.
Be careful with it.
Yeah, I know.
Move this way. Yes. Moist. Yeah, moist.
Yeah, you want that, you don't want any moisture in there.
Porch here.
You vacuum all around here. I usually don't stick the vacuum in there because there is a chance you could pull some of that condensate out.
It goes inside.
Yeah, yep, see how it goes in that groove?
I can do that on my vehicle.
This is done. We're gonna do up and down again, but you wanna do it again.